नहीं Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Hello, Prem, sir. Yeah.
Yes, good evening. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. It's great to see you guys joining early. Stay tuned. We'll be starting shortly. So, hello and welcome everyone to another session in the DataHour series. We are thrilled to be here with you this evening for this session, Full Action Packed Learning. I am Priya Pandey, part of the data science at Analytics Vidhya, and I'll be the moderator for this session along with Ram Goswami. So, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
So I'll be just to make a quick introduction about the data series.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Just a minute. So let's wait for a couple of minutes. Let everyone join. Yeah. Hello everyone, welcome to another session of the DataHour series. We will start in 2 or 3 minutes. Till then, let's go to know each other. We have put up a poll that contains 2 questions about your location and experience level. Kindly answer the questions in the poll. I'll be waiting for your response. Kindly share the update of polls, please. Let's wait a couple of more minutes, please. Hello everyone. I can see Sudhir, Abdul, Abhishek, Achal, Aditya, Aisha, Ajit, Akash. Hello everyone. Hello Sikandar. You're from Axis Bank. Good evening all. Akshay, Thorat, Ankit Jaiswal, Akeem. Hello everyone. I can see like Indians are there. Moritz R. Morufu below. Okay. Hi. Hi Vineet. Oh, one from Nigeria. Hello. Hello Victor. Good morning. Oh, sorry. Good evening. There you're saying good morning. Okay. Hi. Hi Gaurav. So I'm ending the poll, guys. Thank you. And hello and welcome everyone to another session in the DataHour series. We are thrilled to be here with you this evening for a session full of action-packed learning. I am Priya Pandey, part of data science team at Analytics Vidhya, and I'll be the moderator for this session along with Ram Goswami. So for those who have joined us for the first time, a brief introduction to the DataHour session. The DataHour is a series of webinars conducted by Analytics Vidhya and led by top industry experts. We are having one of them. It is a fun way to understand the concepts of data science from the leading players of data tech domain. And as the name suggests, it's 1 hour dedicated to data. We are hopeful that these sessions are going to be great source of enrichment and value adding for the community members. Now on to our sessions today, which is MLOps to MLOps. AI is no longer exclusively for digital natives company like Amazon, Netflix, or Uber. Unsurprisingly, Gartner predicts that more than 75% of organizations will shift from piloting AI technologies to operationalization them and at the end of the year 2024, which is where the real challenges begin. Unfortunately, scaling AI this sense is not easy. There is a chasm between ML and MLOps that can be tricky to scale. The MLOps can turn into MLOps. In this DataHour, Prem is going to help you go from MLOps to MLOps. Before we kick things off, I hand it over to our speaker, a quick recap of the housekeeping items. We are recording the session and will make the recording available in a few days on our YouTube channel. You can find the links in the chat box soon. Please use the Q&A sessions for asking any questions you might have during the session. Okay, so you have to use Q&A section for your posting your question. So Prem sir will be available for this question and answer series, and we will do our best to answer them in the data as the data progresses towards the end. Also, we will share a poll about the feedback of the session towards the end of the session, which I request you all to kindly fill it up. Now, on to our speaker in this session of our DataHour, we have Prem Naraindas with us. Prem Naraindas is the founder and CEO of Ketonic AI. Ketonic AI has built a data science platform for the masses that Netflix, Airbnb, Uber, Google, and the big players have been building internally for years. Prem has a vision to create affordable and efficient AI that can help business create better processors. His aim to make available AI tech more available on mass platforms for all business and let them use in the most efficient manner. Over to you, Prem. The virtual stage is all yours.
Hey, thank you, Priya, Ram, and Analytics Vidhya for this platform. So I looked at the poll. So there's a little bit uniqueness about me. I'm the only one from Australia, right? So I'm currently in Sydney. It's 10:30. I've had my dinner, and I'm all set to talk about, how organizations today are struggling with MLOps and how they can move from all the struggle to have a successful AI implementation, right? So let me quickly bring up a few slides which I have. And this is going to be many of the sessions which we will be doing. So we have planned a few more sessions in future where you'll get hands-on. So good news. So a couple of words which I picked up from. So firstly, Priya and Ram, you guys are able to hear me all right? So we're all set. Shall I keep going?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fantastic. That's good. Yeah, it's always good to confirm that. So firstly, look, I picked a few words from Priya, right? Fun, right? So definitely I'm going to make it as interesting as possible, right, to help you understand what MLOps is, because all these jargons can scare a lot of people. But trust me, these jargons will demystify them today, right? And of course, there's a takeaway for you. So there's some good things which I'm giving out today at the end of the session. So please, hang on till the end of the hour. And I will definitely try my best not to doze you off. I'll keep it quite, engaging and interesting. And you keep putting those questions. We'll definitely answer all of them. I'll probably spend about 45 minutes going through the presentation. The good news is there's no hands-on today. There's no prerequisite. You just need to have the enthusiasm to learn about data scientists. So that's the quick, few minutes about what will happen. So let me just do a quick intro of myself. So like Priya said, I've spent a lot of my years helping organizations get value from IT, and in the last 7 years, get value from AI, right? I've been instrumental in building a lot of AI programs for a lot of banks. And I felt that a lot of banks were struggling, or a lot of enterprises were struggling to industrialize AI. And that's where, we created Ketonic. And Ketonic is a machine learning operations platform which helps organizations scale AI. It's not about Ketonic, it's about helping you understand MLOps. So let's quickly get into the next slide. So, firstly, I just want to, I like this quote, right? So today's great companies, right? If you close your eyes and you can think of any of the great companies, all the great companies, you'll probably list them are all software companies, right? When I say software company, it doesn't mean they build software, but what it means is that they really use software into core, be it Tesla in the manufacturing, be it, mobile, be it, iPhone. So every great company today is powered by software. I'm sure all of you agree. And I can tell you that in 10 years, every great company will be powered by machine learning or machine AI, right? And that's why AI is very important. And that's the reason, sessions like these will help you understand AI so that you can help these great companies embrace AI, right? So with that, just want to spend a few minutes. Look, AI used to be kind of a good to have. It was, innovation. A lot of people were looking at AI doing, new things. But AI today has become mainstream, right? So every industry today can benefit from AI. Some of them are benefiting from AI. And there is a use case for every industry, be it banking, be it energy, be it consumer goods, right, or be it telco, right? And organizations are benefiting, and we also unknowingly use AI in our daily life, right? Be it while using a social media platform for facial recognition, or be it, say, for example, the background here, it's AI, right? So AI is going to be important, and organizations have realized that. And I'm sure, a lot of you are here because you know for sure that AI is the future, and organizations have increased their budgets, right? So people are spending more money on AI projects. Data scientists, data engineers, machine learning engineers, business analysts who understand AI are being hired, right? There's increase in the number of hiring, and organizations will be spending hundreds of billions of dollars on products and services, right? So while AI, is coming to the mainstream, organizations have realized that, it is important for them. There's a bit of a disconnect between what the CXO level or the management thinks, right, and what's happening on the ground in terms of real capability. So this, from a recent survey, what came out is that only 6% of the executives feel that they don't have the right capability to implement or embrace AI, right? While 98% of them said AI is important. It was a bit of an irony. And unfortunately, that's the situation. And even the organizations who have managed to implement, not Googles and Ubers of the world, I mean, they definitely have matured platforms, and that's the aim of Ketonic, to offer them those platforms. But even the ones, the large organizations, be it large banks, telcos, who have implemented AI, they took too long to, take AI models into production. It is too expensive to maintain, build, manage AI use cases. So only rich companies can do that, and only high value use cases can do, right? Many low value use cases and tier 2, tier 3, or even tier 1 companies who can't afford millions of dollars are missing out on this opportunity, right? That's where, MLOps comes in, and I'm going to talk about MLOps in few minutes. But essentially, what's happening today on the ground, right? Why is it MLOps, right? Why are organizations failing in adopting AI? That's because, these are the challenges they see, and I'll talk about why they are failing. But on the ground, in any organization, if you hear this, The solution to their problem is MLOps. So you'll have people saying, look, I have a lot of data scientists, they build a lot of model, nothing goes into production, right? A lot of data scientists build a lot of model, they give it to IT operations takes forever. Our data scientists are waiting for 3 months to get a deep learning platform from our IT operations, and IT operations is still trying to figure out, by the way, the open source platform or framework which they wanted, it's already outdated, right? So these are some of the problems or ground challenges you'll hear, which can only be solved by MLOps, right? So let's now talk about why organizations are struggling. I mean, these organizations are smart, right? They're not naive. They have spent billions of dollars doing digital transformation. So if they're struggling with AI, there should be some unique challenges which AI offers. So let me spend next few minutes talking about those challenges, because it's important to understand the challenges. Otherwise, you'll not understand the solution, which is MLOps, right? And I'll deep dive into all those challenges, how they are solved using MLOps. But let's talk about those challenges, right? So firstly, there's a misconception that AI or machine learning is all about model, right? There's so much of importance given to model learning, model development, and organizations think that, okay, in order to go and start benefiting from AI, they should hire 2 or 3 data scientists. They should give them the data, and they build a use case. So let's say if you're looking at predicting a customer, which customer will probably churn or go away from your organization or not use your product, right? So your data is in your call center, your data is in your emails, your data is probably in your CRM system. So you take a download of that, you give it to the data scientist. The data scientist will do certain experimentation, and finally, the data scientist will build a model and show it to the business. And business will be happy because the model is good. It will work. But when you try to productionize that model, the Jupyter notebook or the VS Code or the R or whatever code the data scientist has written, it doesn't scale. Because Jupyter notebooks or these ID environments are good for building models. You cannot scale, especially when it comes to petabyte of data, right? So what happens is, the offline data which you give it to the data scientist, you need to have connectors to bring the data. You need to process the data, pre-process the data. You need to do feature engineering, and I'll talk about all this when we go a little more detail. And you need to then train a model. You need to retrain a model. You need to take that model, convert that into an API, a scalable API, expose that. So there is so much more which goes on into taking a model into production. That model becomes only 5% of the total cost of the entire project. And because there was so much importance given to the model, organizations underestimate the effort required to take a model into production. They don't have the right tools. And all these models become a museum piece. And I myself have been involved in delivering 30 to 40 of such museum pieces, which are lying in many of the bank's innovation labs or maybe in GitHubs. The only way you can get value from AI is by taking a model into production and maintaining and managing that. And that's the only way you get value. Otherwise, you're throwing money into the dustbin. So that's the first challenge. The misunderstanding that model training is the end goal, and the misunderstanding and the improper handoff. So even if you build a good model and you have the right tools, but if you don't hand it over to the right team who understands, it is still going to be a failure, right? So that's the first biggest problem which MLOps will be solving, and I'll talk about how it's done. Second problem is organizations' overconfidence on the tech investment they've made. So they say, look, we've invested millions of dollars on DevOps. Yes, they've invested millions of dollars on DevOps, right? But code is very different. So code is deterministic. So you give it an input, it gives you an output. So if I install Windows 8 operating system on Priya's laptop, it will work, and it will work for even 5 years. And you have mainframes working from 30 years, right? So code is deterministic, but AI is not deterministic. So AI is function of data and code. So when you build a model, there is a code you have identified, and you need to train that code using data. So if you have a facial recognition model created for Australia, it won't work in the US. You need to continuously retrain. Even in Australia, you need to continuously retrain and remodel. Otherwise, the model becomes stale, and it will actually start giving you negative business value. So there are a lot of case studies where organizations have built models and lost billions of dollars because those models go rogue, right? So AI depends on code and data, and also you cannot manage AI with DevOps alone. You need more than DevOps. So you need continuous monitoring. You need to manage the data, the lineage between data and the code, and you also need continuous training. And that's what machine learning operations offer. So in a nutshell, MLOps is DevOps plus continuous monitoring and continuous training. If you don't understand all of this, don't worry, you'll get it by the end of the session. Yeah. So the third thing is AI is a game where everybody has to play together. So in the end, whatever technology you choose or any initiative you take, it's all about business. You are either saving money or bringing more revenue, or you're keeping the customers happy, or you're making employees happy. If you're not doing any of that, the technology means nothing. So businesses need to get involved. There are business matrices agreed, business benefits agreed. Then you need to come up with a hypothesis. You have data engineers giving you data. You have data scientists building models. Then you need to have machine learning engineers who will convert that model into scalable pipeline. You need to then have DevOps to provision and maintain and manage this whole thing. So you need to essentially have everybody in the organization come together, and good luck, because most of the organizations struggle to collaborate because there is no, and on top of that, because it is so complex, there is no proper handoffs between these parties, right? Because each one today is using their own tool. So you have, businesses using their dashboards, BI tools. You have data engineers using their own ETL data warehouse. You have data scientists sitting on a laptop building a model on the Jupyter notebook. You have machine learning engineers who have no clue how to convert the Jupyter notebook. So that's the challenge, right? There are too many tools, be it open or proprietary, and also the data scientists today. I call them, the way the kids today, right? My kids or anyone's kids, they are pampered. They're given everything in excess. So data scientists today are kids who are pampered because every day you have a new open source framework. You have a better framework. You have a better open source tool which can help you. And data scientists want that because that will help the businesses get better. But software engineers and architects are process oriented. They are risk averse. They need to ensure that they scan every open source tools. They want to look at the source code of every open source tools, scan it, and ensure that everything is all right before they give it to the data scientist. And that's where the friction comes in, because data scientists are creative people and they want something quickly, and process oriented people who are software engineers unknowingly become a bottleneck, right? And that's where AI requires all these tools coming together and these two different kind of parties coming together. And that's why it becomes a challenge. And that's again a challenge which can be solved by MLOps, right? So what's the solution? The solution is MLOps. So what is MLOps? MLOps is very simple, right? What DevOps did to software, about 15 to 20 years back in 2000, 22 years now, didn't realize the time, is exactly what MLOps will do to AI, right? So you had your developers and operations sitting separately, it becomes DevOps. Now you have your machine learning development team, which is your data scientists, data engineers, sitting and building models, sitting in isolation, right? With operations, which is your IT operations. You need to bring them together, and bringing them together doesn't mean bring them physically together. You need to give them the right tool. You need to give them the right processes. You need to empower them so that they can actually work together and deliver this promise of continuous AI innovation, where businesses can then identify use cases, experiment, fail fast, and the ones which are successful can be taken into production. That's MLOps. And I'll talk a little more about what it means from a data scientist and data engineer's perspective, right? And the next thing is, so this is how a MLOps platform looks. It's also an architecture diagram of Ketonic. So, you need to have platforms. So Ketonic is, it lives on Kubernetes. It installs on any infrastructure, be it AWS, be it Azure, be it on-prem. It is scalable, but more importantly, it gives the freedom and it caters to the creative, scientific approach of data scientists. So we are not opinionated, right? We are not, it's a tough one. We don't force data scientists or data engineers to follow a certain process. We give them the freedom to choose ID environment of their choice. So any MLOps should give that freedom. You get a freedom for ID environment of your choice. You get a freedom to choose the algorithm of your choice. You get a freedom to use, you get the freedom to use Python to connect to your various data sources, build apps on top of that. So the platform should cater to the end-to-end, MLOps, from your, experimentation, training, model development, deployment, monitoring, building apps on top of that. And also it should be role-based and proper handoffs. So we have taken the best practices from Google. So Google published a white paper. I'll share the link in the end. In August last year, we've taken those best practices, incorporated. Now natively, each user is actually, doing a certain thing, and incrementally you can take that particular use case and move that into production. And all this on a secure, we've secured it using Red Hat Keycloak. It's an ISO 27001 company, and all the right securities which is required, because we have few deployments in the banks, and banks just don't buy any software. So all that is there. So this is MLOps. Again, if you don't still understand, don't worry, we'll cover it in detail. So essentially, this is a platform where data scientists can experiment, hand it over to machine learning engineer who can build pipelines and put that model into production by converting that into an API. And then you have your operations team who's continuously monitoring that. And every time the performance of the model deteriorates, you retrain. And it is on a scalable platform. So we have for organizations, there are like 20, 25 GPUs spun up in the night, videos being processed, and then we bring that back. So it's a flexible, gives you the choice of your ID environment, and it's secure. And more importantly, not everybody's code hours, right? So the platform helps you move from no code to low code to full code, and you can move from one persona to another. So what does all that mean from an organization perspective, right? So from an organization perspective, what it means is that now customers can do more with less data scientists. It's basically MLOps enables automation of a factory where with just 3 or 4 people, you can run this entire manufacturing factory, like what German machines do, right? That's exactly what MLOps does. With very few, you can run hundreds and thousands of models without any manual intervention. And all you're doing is sitting and looking at those dashboards to ensure that everything is going all right and just get in when it's required. But what it also means is that, they are able to, organizations now are able to afford this platform because these platforms have been traditionally built by Googles of the world, Ubers of the world. Now it's affordable for them, and they'll be able to build many, many models and put them into production and have more control over your infrastructure. So with a platform on Kubernetes, which is scalable, you pay only when you use, and that gives a lot of benefit because data scientists need high GPUs during training, and you need stable servers and environments during model serving, right? So that's the benefit. I'll take a pause here. That gives you an end-to-end overview of what are the challenges. What I'm going to do is not a demo, but talk about what is the MLOps process. And today I'm going to cover level 2 process, level 3 process, and then finally I'll point you to some resources which will help you practice, understand more, and hopefully when we have our next session from one of my team who will actually take a use case and build this end-to-end on a level, level 2 and show it to you. So Priya, shall I keep going, or you want me to take a pause and answer some questions?
So you can answer the questions.
Okay, yeah. Okay, should I go through the questions or?
So let us, it's the numbers are only 2, so we shall wait for some time.
Okay, let's do one thing. Let me answer the questions in the end. I think some of the questions which the audience is asking will be answered in this demo, right? So let's get into the demo, right? Let's understand what MLOps really means, right? So let's take a use case. Let's take a real life scenario. Like I said, data science is all about solving problem, right? It's about making a difference to the business. So let's take an imaginary bank. Let's call it data bank, right? And so this is our head of analytics at data bank. And our gentleman spent millions of dollars implementing dashboards, BI. And unfortunately, while dashboards are great, it only tells you what has happened, what has happened, right? It doesn't tell you what will happen. And a lot of customers of the bank are leaving, right? They're churning, and they have no clue what to do, right? And BI is not able to help. And that's where now they've decided to look at AI as a savior and look at using machine learning to predict why a particular customer or which customer might quit, and also understand a little bit using the features why a customer is quitting and if there's anything which can be done. So this is the use case, and I'm going to run you through how this use case is typically built, and then how do you convert that into an MLOps level 2, and then I'll briefly introduce what is MLOps level 3, right, which is the nirvana state of MLOps. So firstly, and I'm sure a lot of you might have the data science background, but for the ones who don't, let's talk about feature engineering, because that's a word you'll hear again and again when you're in the data science or the AI world, right? Feature engineering, while it sounds a complex word, it's very simple. Firstly, the data in any organization is designed to be consumed by business applications. So organizations have marketing application, they have sales application, they probably have some other application, and each of these applications have database, and there is data sitting there, and that's how it was traditionally designed. The data is not designed for machine learning. And so when you need to predict which customer is churning, right, what you're essentially doing is you're taking each customer's data and using a machine learning model giving it a score, saying what's the probability, because the AI will never tell you yes or no, right? It's just a probability game. It tells you this is the probability of something happening, and then you can decide what actions you want to take, right? So let's say in this case, we want to build a model which is predicting which customer might leave, right? And in order to predict a model, you need to train a model not using data, using features. And I'll talk about what features is. So let's say you're a real estate agent, right? And you are showing a house to your prospective leads. And when you meet them, there is an intuitiveness within a salesperson or the real estate person, or even in humans, right? Where, you look at the person, if the person is come well dressed, if the apartment is expensive, potentially he might buy, because if he's well dressed, he must be wealthy. Not always it's true, but usually that's the signal. Then what car is he driving? Did he come with a family? Did he come on a weekday during office hours, which means he's serious, because somebody who's not serious, not. So these are nothing but signals, right? Which help you intuitively understand if the customer will buy or not. Now, if you want to replicate this into a model, these signals are nothing but features. And these features are derived using data, which is unfortunately not in the format you want. So you need to do something called feature engineering. And there are a lot of feature engineering techniques, and I'm sure on Analytics Vidhya, there are a lot of courses. You can spend all your, weekend and week doing that. That's not something which I'm going to cover in detail, but essentially what you're doing is you're taking those data, converting that into signals or features, training a model which is doing a certain prediction. That's exactly what feature engineering. Okay. So now let's talk about how do you build and how do you industrialize and what is MLOps, right? So firstly, the first step in any machine learning program is business objective. So in this case, the business objective is very clear. A lot of cases, the business objective is not clear. I strongly suggest that if you're into a team where you're building a model, please spend some time understanding why you're building that and try and understand what difference it is making to the business, because only then you'll be able to figure out the right features and build a better model. That's my humble request to all of you, right? Second thing, the first step in any AI project is a business problem, and then a hypothesis that by this model which we build will do a certain thing, right? So in this case, we want to build a model which will predict customer churn. So what typically organizations do, which is the right thing to do, is take the offline data. So you take a dump of your call center data, take a dump of your emails, the customer interactions, take a dump of your CRM, and maybe 3 or 4 other maybe social media data if you have, whatever data you have, and you give it to the data scientist. And data scientists are very smart. They'll take this data, convert this into features. And what essentially data scientists do in 2022, right, is not build algorithms. There are too many algorithms there, right? There's PyTorch, scikit-learn, a lot of algorithms already. Nobody's building algorithms. What they do is they take the data, convert that into features, train algorithm 1 and see what's the prediction, train 2, and then change the hyperparameter tuning. So it's an experimentation where you continuously trialing and erroring, and ultimately, you will find the best model which will do the prediction. And this is called experimentation, and it is very important because sometimes you're doing multiple experiments, thousands of experiments, and you need to ensure that you're tracking those experiments. So experiment tracking is one of the important features of machine learning operations platforms. So that's something which should be there because it helps you, compare experiments, sort experiments based on matrices, identify the best experiment, and then take that particular model, which you then take it into production. So most of the organizations are fantastic at doing this, right? Because it's easy. All you need to do is you need to have a hypothesis, you need to hire a data scientist, you need to give them offline data, and after 3 weeks, you have a model, right? What they don't know, what they struggle is the next step, which is essentially taking this whole thing and productionizing. And that's what MLOps platforms help you do. So firstly, what you need to do is you need to convert this piece of code, which is in your Jupyter notebook or a R, or in your, whatever language you've written it in, whatever ID environment you used, you need to convert that into scalable pipelines. And scalable pipelines, because, when you're doing experimentation, you're playing with KB, MB, GB data. And in reality, in production, right, you have, terabytes of data, and you need to have a pipeline which can process that quickly, and it needs to be serverless, which can scale the compute, and it needs to be self-sufficient, and it needs to have all the dependencies, right? Now, that's the first step. You convert your notebook into a pipeline. Now, the offline data, which you gave it to the data scientist, you need to now ensure that you connect to that. Either if the customer has an ETL process who will then bring all those data into a warehouse, and then the MLOps platform will then connect to that warehouse or even to the connectors directly and connect this pipe to the data source and rerun this pipe to recreate that model. Because the reason you want to build this pipe, I'll talk about that. And now you have a model which needs to be put into production, right? So the next step is to take this model and put that into production, which is nothing but putting that into a server, which converts into an API. And before that, what you need to do is you need to do model versioning. So tomorrow, if you get sued, and if you have to go back and reproduce why a certain inference happened, right? Why did you suggest certain thing to a certain customer? You should be able to reproduce. So you need to, and also, let's say you created a new version of the model, you realize, so just the way you can always, go back to the older version of the code, you should be able to go back to the older version of the model. And DevOps doesn't do that. That's what, model versioning is. And that's what is offered through a capability called model registry. And that's what Ketonic platform offers through MLflow. So we've integrated Databricks MLflow into the platform. And like I said, it's a single UI. You really don't realize that you're moving from one tool to another. So model versioning is important. And now at a click of a button, or it could be whatever the MLOps platform offers, but as part of the process, you need to convert that into a API, and then you need to give that API to your developers, who will then integrate that into their web applications, in the mobile applications. But you can also build applications using, because what happens many times is data scientists build an API, and during the experimentation phase after the API, if you take an API to the business, it doesn't make any sense to them. So you should be able to quickly build prototype using data apps like Streamlit, Dash, Shiny, and these help you really visualize the results, and you can even take them into production, right? So Ketonic platform or the MLOps platform will help you build these apps so that business users or you are able to interact with these, models. And the third thing is, you also need to infuse your, like in our case, you saw the head of data analytics who was upset because his Tableau dashboards or his Power BI dashboards or the whatever BI tools they've invested in, it needs to be now infused with AI. So you can write a pipe which will pull the data, run it against the model, and then go infuse AI or give you prediction in the dashboard. So your dashboards are now becoming from descriptive to prescriptive to predictive, right? And this is just the first step. The second step is you need to continuously monitor the model, not just from a performance perspective. It's not just API and the storage and the compute you're monitoring. You need to monitor against drift. You need to monitor against the accuracy because the data keeps changing. And every time the data changes, the model, like I said in that diagram, might decay. You need to continuously monitor. So you need to have the MLOps platform give you that capability where you're continuously monitoring. And once you see any discrepancy or you see that the model is not performing, you trigger this pipeline. And now you understand why we converted that notebook into the pipeline, because you can trigger that pipe, rerun that pipe, and that pipe will again do all the things that the data scientist did. It will take the data, create features, run it against every algorithm, find the best algorithm, find the best model, and auto deploy that into production. Versioning is taken care, completely automated, right? So this is MLOps for you guys. The good news is this is just level 2. There's still more complexity to it, which I'll talk about level 3, right? So I think this gives you a good understanding of what MLOps is. So MLOps is nothing but automating your end-to-end data science process, which is your data ingestion, featureization, training, retraining, monitoring, everything, right? That's what is MLOps. So let's talk about MLOps level 2, right? This is level 2, sorry. Let's talk about level 3, which is the Nirvana state, right? And that is something which was published by Google as well in August. And I'll simplify that for you guys, and in the end, bring up that Google's famous picture, which is the level 3 MLOps. So now let's say, you successfully implemented MLOps, right? And you have a model, but in reality, it won't be one model, right? Trust me, in any organization, there will be hundreds of models, like I said, in few years. And you will have many, many thousands of pipelines running concurrently, right? And every time there is a new use case, data scientists will be creating a new model, new pipeline, the feature engineering will happen, all that will happen. Now, unfortunately, in any organization, the data remains the same, right? And the feature engineering, more or less, because the data is the same, the use cases are similar. Every time doing feature engineering again and again is a waste of time. it's a, it's a lost energy because you are repetitively doing it. And again, there is no consistency because in one use case, you might use a certain technique. In another use case, you might use a certain technique, and which is waste of time, right? And most organizations, don't have any reuse of features because they're not reusing that. And the second thing about feature engineering, which is annoying, is when you write a pipeline which takes your raw data and it creates the feature and trains a model and converts that model into API, you need to do featureization before you call the API. So you can actually, put that featureization along with the model, but which is not practically most of the time possible. So you are usually doing featureization before you call the API. And you need to ensure that that featureization, which is nothing but computation of conversion of that raw data into signals, needs to be equivalent. Otherwise, you end up having online offline skew, right? And this is where MLOps advanced technique, which is feature store, comes in. And Ketonic comes with an inbuilt feature store where we help you identify features and register them so that the data scientist can reuse them again and again. And more importantly, what we also do is we decouple this entire feature engineering process from your training and inference process. So you can think of every time there is a new project, you can go and look at feature store and look at features which you can reuse. And if you think that there is a new feature required, you will then probably build enhance that pipe so that the new feature can be created. And then you will dig into the feature store. And this is how most of the data scientists will be working. You will not, in few years, you will no more be connecting to data warehouse or data source. Every organization will have a feature store, just the way they have database, where all the features will be stored. And as a data scientist, you will be building use cases from there. And this is level 3. And the other advantage of having feature store is you can eliminate that featureization before you call the API, because that is taken care by the feature store. And that really brings in a lot of reuse from a feature perspective, takes away a lot of pain area of retrofitting the featureization code, which potentially might be in hundreds of obligations, right? And it will also bring a lot of reusability because you're doing feature engineering pipeline is something which will run separately. So it also helps you save compute. And so if I just now bring everything together, this is the nirvana state, and this is something which was published by Google a few months back. So if I just reiterate, so number one is you need to connect, you need to do ETL, you need to bring all the data into a data warehouse. And from the data warehouse, you have feature engineering pipelines, which will compute or process that data, convert that into features, put that into feature store, and that feature engineering pipeline is running on a regular basis. And on the training side or on the experiment side, data scientists are experimenting, and once the experimentation is complete, that is converted into an experiment pipeline, which will continue to do multiple experiments every time you want to do. And then you convert, you have your automated pipeline, which can retrain. If you remember, I talked about all the model versioning is happening in the model registry. Performance monitoring is happening. And then you have this end-to-end machine, which can do millions, which can process millions of features, which can process hundreds and thousands of pipeline. And because it is on Kubernetes and powered by Kubeflow pipeline or whatever pipeline, scalable pipeline, it can. So this is the nirvana state, and this is exactly what organizations will achieve in few years. And again, like I said, we'll have sessions where we will take a use case, convert that into pipe, build that level 2 later. And we'll also have someone come in and do a level 3 later, right? So before I stop and then conclude and answer some questions, I just want to point you through to some of the things. So firstly, I strongly suggest that you read this Practitioner's Guide to MLOps. A great read, just 8 or 10 pages. Lots to learn from there. In fact, a lot of those best practices have been incorporated into a Ketonic platform. If you are looking at being a MLOps practitioner, you should definitely look at that. Second thing is, if you can't wait for the next session to happen, just go to docs.ketonic.ai. We have a step-by-step for level 2. We have a step-by-step process for level 3 with all the code for you. And also, we have a lot of pre-built accelerators on Ketonic platform where you can see hundreds of use cases for banking, insurance. You can go take those templates, convert them into pipeline. And of course, you will ask me, Prem, where do I do that? we offer a free individual account on ketonic.ai where you can just sign up, and then you can do all these things. And when we have the next session, you can probably follow, you'll be able to follow more. So with that, I'll just take a pause. I think I'm done with the overall session where I talked about the challenges, which is, why the organizations are struggling, which is MLOps. And then I talked about MLOps and how it really streamlines the entire thing and how you're able to bring, process to this creativeness and bring everything together and make the AI magic, right? So with that, I'll stop sharing the screen and I will start answering the questions now. Yeah. All good. So Priya, shall I go through the questions or is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah, please.
Okay, let me do that. So let me start from the beginning. Okay, so okay, well, so one of the persons says, I'm a pharmacy graduate. If I learn data scientist, will company hire me, right? Of course, see, if you're a pharmacy graduate, right? Now, I don't know, what's your background, but if you're a pharmacy graduate, obviously you understand, if you start understanding the processes and what data scientists, so you have two routes, right? One, understand the business domain and understand what data science can do in pharmacy, right? And then people will hire you because you are able to bridge the gap between technology and business, and you become something like a business analyst, right? Who's able to help organizations. Or if you're a techie guy, start learning Python and start building use cases in pharmacy. There are a lot of great use cases which are already there around drug discovery and things like that. So of course, look, data scientists will help you, but then just doing a course and spending 6 weeks, if someone can become data scientist, then the entire world can become, right? You need to be passionate, takes time. You need to really, spend, nights and, get some hands-on experience. So yeah, that's how I would probably answer. Let me go to the next question. Yeah, I think the what drawbacks and disadvantages of MLOps we can expect. So see, firstly, there's no disadvantage in the MLOps, but if you're a small company looking at taking 5 or 6 models and operating, MLOps is a overkill for you. You shouldn't be using MLOps tools. You are better off just doing it manually. If you're only looking at industrializing AI, you're looking at having hundreds of models. You're looking at infusing AI in every aspect you do and maintain and manage that efficiently. That's when you really need MLOps. Otherwise, it's basically overkill, right? You really don't need MLOps if you are looking at just building few use cases. Yeah, and let me go. Can I jump electronics to AI? Of course you can. I just gave a pharmacy example, right? I'm a chemical engineer, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So if I can, start a company on MLOps, I'm sure you can learn MLOps and get a job. So look, don't get disheartened or don't get bogged down by what you are or what you studied. I have my best performing developer who's instrumental in building is a college dropout. So don't look, degrees don't matter. It's the attitude and willingness to learn. Yeah. Let me go to the next one. Okay, somebody wants to collaborate. Look, we have partners.ketonic. Just go to ketonic.ai. There's partner portal. Just sign up. Somebody will call you and we're happy to partner with you, right? Performance monitoring. Yeah. Look, anyway, somebody will do see, performance monitoring. What we do is once the model is converted into an API and deployed, we auto attach a lot of pre-built canned matrices, right? So like how many calls, what's the CPU usage, what's the GPU usage. But we also have all of those data science metrics like your accuracy, data quality, drift. We're continuously monitoring that. And then you are able to see a dashboard where you can continuously see how it's performing. And every time you feel that the threshold is going down beyond your limit, then you can always just re-trigger it. So the best thing to do that would be come back to the next session and you'll be able to see how the performance monitoring is done and how you trigger those pipelines. Or you can sign up on the free version and go to docs.ketonic and start learning right away. Yeah. So what are the stages in the data science lifecycle, right? So look, MLOps is a loosely word which is loosely used, right? Organizations used to just do monitoring and say we are MLOps. Organizations used to just do experiment tracking and say MLOps. But more and more, there's a consensus that MLOps or a full service MLOps is a platform which will help you do everything. So ideally, an MLOps platform should help you spin a environment, do a coding, convert that into a pipeline, manage your experiments, convert them. So essentially, it should be able to help you do experimentation, help you deploy models, monitor models, retrain everything, whatever I showed you, right? Anything less than that, then it's not a full. And what I feel is no CIO will get up and say, let me buy 6 tools and let's integrate them. Everybody is looking at an end-to-end MLOps platform, right? How can cloud computing be used in MLOps? See, essentially, most of the MLOps platform run on Kubernetes, and Kubernetes can be spun on cloud. So you have AKS, EKS, GCP, and the platform sits on the cloud, and every time the load goes up, it auto spins more machines. So cloud and MLOps are marriages made in heaven. But also because MLOps is on Kubernetes, it also installs on-prem. And although a lot of customers will tell you cloud, the data still gravitate towards on-prem. And customers, in fact, there's an article I'll be writing in a few weeks where I'm going to talk about why MLOps or machine companies who are looking at machine learning are moving into on-prem or hybrid. And yeah, I'll happy to share that with Analytics Vidhya, and we'll probably publish that. How do we monitor feature engineering with feature registry? Because I think of data changes. Yeah, so see, I don't know if we have already built that, but we are working on a feature of the product where we'll continuously look at the data monitoring in the feature store. So you have real-time dashboard, which is giving you, because that becomes your data. So when you say data drift, data monitoring, data quality monitoring, right? That is nothing but your features. So you can have a integrated dashboard sitting on top of feature store, which is continuously giving you insights on the data quality. And if it deteriorates, you can always go back and look at what's going wrong, right? So that's the. Let me go to the next question. What are the time costs associated with MLOps? So I'm not sure if I understood that, but typically whatever I showed you, because of the automation, once you build your model, so if you take a Kaggle, the best way to do that is take a Kaggle Jupyter notebook, bring that to Ketonic, and within 3 hours, you can convert that into a pipeline, deploy that model into production, get an API. If you're good at Python, you can build a Streamlit web app on top of that, and you will be able to continuously monitor. And whatever I showed you today, you'll be able to do it in flat 3 hours. And if you're not able to do, come to me. We'll show you how to do it, because then you'll be doing something wrong, right? So what is better as specialty in future embedded AI or data science? Yeah, see, what is going to happen is cloud is great, but there's a lot of latency in the cloud. And more, right? Once you build a model, most of the MLOps platform should be able to deploy those models at the edge. So when I say edge, if you have an oil rig, and if you are looking at, or let's say if you have built a model which looks at the water and identifies if there is E. coli, you need to have that particular model on the edge, sitting on top of the water, because you can't expect that to transport the data to a server. So the edge use cases will increase. So IoT was last year. Now AI sitting on top of IoT on the edge is what the future is, right? And most of the MLOps are moving there, right? And more portability of the model is happening. So you can build a model in Ketonic, put it on a small piece of hardware, maybe and then you should be able to do it on the edge. Yeah. Open source MLOps versus Ketonic. Look, open source is the future, right? And Ketonic platform is nothing but a set of about 30 to 35 open source tools which are brought together so that you as a data scientist don't waste your time figuring out how to install it. You as a data scientist don't have to figure out and worry about infrastructure. It's all brought in together, a nice UI, secured it, because IT operations guys will never approve a pure open source platform because you don't know what vulnerability exists there. So we are an end-to-end open platform. So we use Jupyter Notebook, Visual Studio, R, all these three are open source. And then we use, for experiment tracking, we use MLflow, which is open source by Databricks. For pipeline, we use Qflow pipeline, open source by Google. And for deployment, we have our own proprietary. So it's a mix of open source and proprietary, but all in all, if you learn Ketonic, you're actually learning these popular industry standard open source tools. So you're not wasting your time. You're actually learning at the same time, you're not wasting your time looking at installing Qflow or Qflow pipeline. It's very hard to install. Don't waste your time doing that. We've already done that. Just log into Ketonic and then you start using that. Yeah. How Ketonic is different from Databricks? Look, Databricks is cloud first. It works only on the cloud. Of course, Databricks has a tool which is MLflow, which does experiment tracking. Pipeline was missing, but MLflow pipeline is also come. So of course, Databricks and Ketonic, if I tell you now, it's kind of competing with them. So a lot of similarities between what they do. But what we do is, so Databricks is like a buffet where everything is MLflow. And we are like a buffet where we have taken the best from the various restaurants. So we have Kubeflow from Google for you. We have MLflow from Databricks. We have Jupyter Notebook. So we are a buffet of buffet where we've taken the best dishes and brought them together so that the data scientists can enjoy it, right? That's how I would say. There's a use of Tableau. Yes, Tableau is a dashboard, and MLOps, the output of MLOps gets fed into Tableau. So if Tableau is telling you what is happening by using AI, it will also tell you what will happen. So if you are looking at a 5-year-old historic data, it will show you in the visualization file, but it will also show you next week what is happening, right? So of course, Tableau has a use case in MLOps, but Tableau itself is not part of MLOps, but it is a consumer of the MLOps outcome. And if you remember my diagram, there is a pipeline which continuously takes data, feeds to the machine learning model, takes the inference and feeds that to Tableau, right? Can you please suggest free course from where I can learn? Look, with Analytics Vidhya, we are coming up with a free course. I don't know if I was supposed to tell you, but in a month or so, we have a fantastic course coming on MLOps, very detailed. So stay tuned. I think that will be the best course. And I'm really looking forward for that course, right? So I'm a business analyst working with SQL and SAS, want to work in ML and data science. Look, start hands-on, stop reading, just get hands-on, right? Go take a Kaggle, take that, bring it into a platform like Ketonic, start practicing, keep doing it, and you'll get there, yeah? Where can I test? Yeah, of course, you can bring it on Ketonic, convert them into API, you can test that. Is AI can last forever? Look, nobody knows, right? But of course, I mean, I'm sure if someone takes away AI, you will not be happy, Hima. So I'm sure AI will last forever, right? If I take away the facial recognition from your phone, I'm sure none of us will be happy. So AI will be there. AI will be there everywhere. And like I said, every great company will be powered by AI. And the ones who don't use AI will be gone, right? So the way you have IT operations in every company, so there is no company which doesn't have IT. 20 years back or 30 years back, if I told you that, you would say, maybe not. But every company has IT. So in 10 years, every company will have MLOps. Take my word. Yeah. Okay. Placement. Sorry, I can't help there. How can we do MLOps with federated learning? Not sure what's the question. MLOps involves large-scale infrastructure and lots of CI/CD tools. From learning standpoint, one can't afford. Yeah, that's exactly what I told you. You cannot afford them. You don't have to waste your time installing. You don't have to buy books. Just go to Ketonic, install the individual free version. No, it doesn't need to be installed. It's a hosted one. Just sign up. You'll get an email. Get in. There's docs.ketonic. Just start using. You don't need any money. Look, the world is moving towards free, right? You have free courses. You have free platforms. The only thing you need is willingness. So yeah, just go for it. Certification, yes, we have certification in Udemy. You can go look up, and it's a paid certification. But if you don't want to pay, maybe you reach out to me on LinkedIn and Ketonic, and I'll send you a code, right? So yeah. API, see, API is nothing but application programming interface, right? I mean, all of us use. So let me give you a very simple example of an API, which I usually use to explain my wife, maybe, right? So let's say you have Uber and Google Maps, right? Now, when you go to Uber, right, if you give a from location and to location, if you go to Google Maps and search for from and to, it also tells you how much Uber will cost you, right? Now, if it was 20 years back, integrating Uber and Google Maps would have been a 2-year project. But with APIs, it's become very easy. So what Uber has done is it has come up with an API. So API is nothing but a contract. It says, you give me this, I'll give you that. So in the case of Uber, it says you give me to and from, and I'll give you the price. In fact, even you can go into an Excel and call Uber API, give to and from, and it will give you the price because it's free, right? Now, what Google does is once it gets to and from, it just calls the API from Uber, and then it shows you. And this integration can be done in a few minutes. That's exactly what we do with a model. So once we have a model, if the model is taking let's say we build a model which identifies the age with a photo, right? So all you need to do is once you convert that model, it takes photo as an input and gives you age as an output. Now you can build a mobile app where you can upload a photo, call that API, get the age, or you can even have a web app, right? Or it can be a batch. So that's exactly what API means. So I hope it helps. That's the simplest way you can learn API. How much of an MLOps do I need to know as a data scientist? You probably don't need to, right? Because in my workflow, see, more and more as time passes, there'll be specializations, right? The way 20 years back, everybody was an IT professional, right? Now you have this developer, that developer, database. Same thing will happen with AI. You will have data scientists. Then you will have data scientists who are experts in certain things. Then you have feature engineering experts. Then you have machine learning engineers. All that will happen, but we're still few years away. So my daughter goes to a netball match. There, after in every quarter, she becomes a different player. Sometimes she's shooting, she's defending, and after 4 quarters, I mean, I asked the teacher why. She said now she needs to figure out what she's good at, and after a few years, she can decide what she wants to do. That's exactly where you are. Learn everything, and then you'll figure out that you're good at something. Start specializing, but in few years, you'll have data science, machine learning engineers, all these specialization coming. Yeah, but you need to learn everything now. So MLOps and DevOps, I told you, DevOps plus continuous training plus continuous monitoring is MLOps. Similarities is it's an extension, right? So think of AI as code and data. You manage code with DevOps, and the data and the lineage between data and code and the continuous training monitoring is done by MLOps. So MLOps is an extension of DevOps. So how to practice data science as a beginner? I think I answered that. Will fast API will be useful in Ketonic API building? Look, we already give you at a click of a button, you convert it. So you register a model into a model registry, which is your ML flow. Click a button, it converts into an API. It gives you Swagger file. It's all taken care. You don't need to know fast API. If you have some technical questions, so when we have the session next time, you can ask.
And we have some questions in Q&A session as well. So we need to take this. But before we proceed to the questions, I would like to request the attendees to please fill the feedback poll. So I'm posting it, and by that time, sir will be able to answer your questions as well. Thank you. So we have some questions in Q&A. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just keep going. Yeah. Thanks for the excellent. How does one handle questions on ROI related to data science project, right? So firstly, look, as a data scientist, it is not your responsibility to come up with ROI, right? It's business who needs to figure out. There are a lot of templates out there, but it's really not data scientists' expertise, right? So, but you need to understand what is happening, and then you let the business decide what would be the return on investment, right? And okay, what does ketonic word starts for? So ketonic stands for a herb which helps you sleep peacefully. So by implementing ketonic, you are sure that your models are not going to go rogue and they are not going to hurt your business. Your AI is taken care, right? So blockchain and AI, look, there is no connection at this moment, but of course you can take data from blockchain because data in the blockchain is time series data. You can feed that to AI and predict crypto prices, if at all you're alluding to that. Or you could even look at blockchain infrastructure, get those logs to predict if a particular infrastructure will go down, right? So I think I answered all of it. Look, there is a course if you want, like Ketonic, and message me. I will definitely send you the link, and you can take that course for free. But otherwise, yeah, please give a feedback. Would surely want to know if I did a good job. And look, happy to be in touch on LinkedIn. And of course, you'll see us more on Analytics Vidhya. And there's a course coming up on Analytics Vidhya as well. So, stay tuned for that. So Priya, I think that's bang on, on time. So I'll hand it over to you back. And thanks again for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So thanks a lot. On behalf of Analytics Vidhya, I would like to thank you for your time and delivering such a wonderful session, sir. I'm sure our audience found it insightful, and hopefully we can conduct more such sessions in the future. So I've shared the LinkedIn profile for the speaker in our chat section as well. I hope you guys have filled up the feedback form. I'm taking up the polls right now. So thank you so much and have a great day, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. You guys enjoy MLOps, yeah, from MLOps to Ops. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Bye, guys. Thank you.